For thousands of years, it was nothing more than a myth, a city swallowed by the sea, a civilization erased from history. But what if Atlantis was never lost? What if it was hidden? And what if someone wanted it to stay that way? Some treasures are meant to be found, others should remain buried. Leo stood in the dimly lit study of his late grandfather's estate, the scent of old books and aged parchment thick in the air. His fingers traced the edges of the brittle map before him, its faded ink forming intricate patterns and markings that whispered of a forgotten past. A wax-sealed envelope, aged and cracked, lay beside it, addressed to him in the precise handwriting of his estranged grandfather. He hesitated before breaking the seal, unfolding the note inside. Leo, if you are reading this, then my time has run out. This map is both a gift and a curse. Do not take it lightly. There are others who seek what it leads to, men who will stop at nothing to claim it for themselves. Trust no one, and remember, sometimes history is not meant to be uncovered. A chill ran down his spine. His grandfather had been a world-renowned historian before vanishing from public life. Rumors swirled of a lost expedition, of discoveries that had been erased from records, and now, Leo held a piece of that mystery in his hands. "This is insane," he muttered, rubbing his temple. Across from him, Zara leaned forward, her dark curls tumbling over her shoulders as she examined the map. Her sharp blue eyes gleamed with curiosity. "This writing, it's a mix of ancient Greek and something else. Maybe Phoenician? If this is real, it could be a major find." Callie, sitting cross-legged on the floor, glanced up from where she was rolling a coin between her fingers. The auburn braid over her shoulder swayed as she scoffed. "Or it could be a wild goose chase. What makes you think this isn't some elaborate hoax?" Leo didn't have an answer, but something deep in his gut told him this was real. His grandfather had never been one for fiction. As they studied the map, a familiar name surfaced. Atlantis. Not the myth, but a possible location. Leo's breath caught in his throat as Zara pointed at the coordinates, marked in faded ink, leading across the ocean off the coast of Africa. "If this is what it is," Zara whispered, her voice laced with awe, "we might be looking at a path to the most legendary, lost city in history." Before Leo could respond, a noise outside made them freeze. A car door slammed, the murmur of voices, low, cautious. Callie was the first to move, swiftly reaching for the curtain and peeking outside. Her jaw tightened. "We've got company." Leo's pulse quickened. He wasn't sure who he expected, but when Callie turned back to them, her expression was grim. "It's Ronan." Leo cursed under his breath. Ronan Carrick, a ruthless rival expedition leader, known for stealing discoveries before others could claim them. He had spent years chasing Leo's grandfather, convinced that the old man had secrets worth killing for. If Ronan was here now, that meant he knew about the map. Zara hurriedly rolled the parchment, shoving it into Leo's satchel. "We need to go, now." Footsteps echoed up the stone pathway outside. A sharp knock rattled the heavy wooden door. "Leo!" Ronan's voice was deceptively calm, but Leo knew better. "Let's have a chat, shall we?" Leo exchanged a glance with Callie and Zara. The message was clear. There was no time to hesitate. They had a head start, but not for long. Taking a deep breath, Leo tightened the strap of his satchel and motioned toward the back door. "We take the map and we run. We find out what my grandfather was trying to hide before Ronan does." And with that, the chase for Atlantis began. The sun cast a golden glow over the waters of the West African coast as Leo, Zara, and Callie stepped off the rickety dock onto the rented boat. The horizon's edge was small but sturdy, equipped with a powerful engine and just enough space for their supplies, oxygen tanks, diving suits, sonar equipment, and an assortment of tools that would aid in their descent. The salty breeze carried the murmur of fishermen who watched them with weary eyes. "You're looking for the drowned kingdom," an elderly fisherman rasped, his gaze locked onto Leo. His face was weathered from years under the sun, and his hands gripped a fishing net with an almost superstitious reverence. "Many have gone searching, none have returned." Zara gave Leo a sidelong glance, her fingers tightening around the strap of his satchel. "Good thing we don't scare easily," she murmured. Callie grinned, adjusting the harness of her oxygen tank. "Speak for yourself. I'm absolutely terrified. But hey, what's life without a little risk?" Leo chuckled, but a knot of tension sat in his stomach. He appreciated Callie's bravado, but he knew better than to dismiss the old man's words entirely. If his grandfather had been right, if this map truly led to Atlantis, then there were things lurking beneath the ocean that no history book had ever recorded. They wasted no time setting off. The engine hummed as they sped across the waves, cutting through the vast expanse of open water. The map had been painstakingly analyzed, every marking and faded symbol deciphered by Zara's sharp mind. It led them to an unassuming patch of sea, no islands, no landmarks, just endless blue. But beneath, according to ancient texts and whispered legends, a hidden passage lay buried beneath centuries of oceanic secrecy. Leo adjusted the ship's sonar, watching the readings on the screen. A sharp drop-off appeared, an underwater trench lined with jagged rock formations. There, he said, pointing. That's where we need to go. Callie checked her equipment. Well, I've always wanted to dive into an ominous abyss of certain doom. Bucket list item. Checked? Zara, rolling her eyes, glanced over Leo's shoulder, but something in the distance made her stiffen. We're not alone. Leo turned, his stomach dropping at the sight of a sleek black vessel cutting across the water. Even from afar, he recognized the insignia on the side. Ronin. Damn it, Leo muttered. How did they track us so fast? Does it matter, Callie asked, already securing the last of their gear. If we're gonna do this, we need to do it now. Leo didn't need to be told twice. Within minutes, they were suited up, oxygen tanks secured, masks fitted, the deep awaited. They slipped into the water, the world above muffled instantly by the sea's embrace. As they descended, the trench yawned before them, a dark chasm cutting into the ocean floor. Strange coral formations jutted out from the walls, their shapes eerily unnatural, as if sculpted rather than grown. And then they saw it. Ancient carvings, half buried in silt, stretched along the rock walls. Zara swam closer, her eyes wide behind her mask. She traced the grooves with her gloved fingers. These symbols were similar to early Minoan script, but she paused. No, this is older. Much older. Leo scanned the area, her heart pounding. This was real. This was history. They had found something untouched by time, unseen by modern civilization. A deep rumbling noise vibrated through the water. The three of them froze. The trench walls trembled slightly, silt billowing like smoke. Then the sound of something far more ominous. A blast. A shockwave rippled through the water as the detonation rocked the trench. Leo spun just in time to see a cloud of debris rising from the far side of the cavern. Ronin's team was already down here, and they brought explosives. Leo's mind raced. If Ronin was willing to destroy parts of the site, then this wasn't about discovery. It was about taking whatever was hidden below, no matter the cost. Another explosion rocked the trench, dislodging chunks of stone. A section of the rock face began to crack, revealing something beneath. A doorway. Leo turned to Zara and Callie, his decision already made. They had to get there first. The moment Leo, Zara, and Callie crossed through the fractured rock face, they knew they had stepped into something extraordinary. The passageway, once hidden beneath layers of coral and sediment, led them deeper into the abyss. The walls were lined with intricate carvings, their meanings lost to time, yet undeniably intentional. This was no natural formation. This was a gateway to something far greater. Leo's breath hitched as they emerged from the narrow tunnel and into an expanse that defied imagination. Atlantis. The lost city sprawled before them, bathed in the eerie glow of bioluminescent algae, clinging to the stonework. Towering pillars, once proud and majestic, now lay in crumbling ruins, their marble surfaces adorned with golden inlays that shimmered beneath the water. Structures half buried in silt and coral stood as silent testaments of a civilization long forgotten. Precious gemstones untouched by thieves, embedded in the walls, and complex mosaics that depicted stories no human eye had seen in millennia. Zara floated beside Leo, her wide blue eyes darting over the inscriptions. This is impossible, she murmured through her mask. This isn't just an outpost, this is an entire city. Callie, usually the most reckless of the trio, remained silent for once, taking in the magnitude of their discovery. I have to say it, she finally whispered, but this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Leo's mind raced, the stories, the myths, the theories. It had all led to this. His grandfather had been right. The map wasn't just a legend. Atlantis was real. But their awe was short-lived. A low mechanical hum vibrated through the water. Lights cut through the darkness, beams illuminating the ancient ruins in stark contrast to their untouched beauty. Ronin's team had arrived. Through the murky depths, Leo spotted Ronan Carrick, his rival expedition leader, swimming forward in his sleek, custom-designed diving suit, his face partially obscured by his mask twisted into a victorious smirk. Behind him, his mercenaries fanned out, armed not with tools of careful extraction, but drills and explosives. Leo's stomach dropped. "They're not here to study," Zara whispered, horror in her voice. "They're here to take." Callie clenched her fists. "We can't let them destroy this place." Leo watched in growing dread as Ronan's men planted charges along the weakened structures. They had no concern for preservation, only plunder. Ancient stone cracked under the drills, dust and debris clouding the water. If they kept this up, Atlantis wouldn't survive the night. Ronan turned to Leo, grinning behind his mask. His voice cracked over the underwater comms. "You should have known better than to think you could keep this from me, Leo." He gestured toward the ruins. "Magnificent, isn't it? A shame most of it won't survive." Leo's hands tightened into fists. Zara swam closer to him, urgency in her eyes. "Leo, we have to do something." Callie's voice crackled over the comm. "If we can't fight them head on, we need to make sure they don't get out with anything. What if we seal off the entrance? We can trap them in here long enough to alert the authorities." Leo hesitated. If they did that, they would be risking their own escape. But if they did nothing, Ronan would destroy everything. Time was running out. Leo took a deep breath, forcing himself to decide. Leo's heart pounded in his chest as he moved through the ruins, weaving between ancient stone pillars and crumbling archways. Every second counted. Ronan's men were busy drilling deeper into the heart of Atlantis, setting charges with reckless abandon. If they weren't stopped now, centuries of history would be lost forever. Through the murky water, he spotted a cluster of explosives near a supply crate, unguarded. His mind raced. If he could detonate one of these charges in the right place, he might be able to trigger a controlled collapse, sealing off the entrance and protecting the city. But it was a dangerous gamble. If he miscalculated, they could all be buried alive. Over his comm, Zara's voice crackled. "Leo, we need to move. They're almost through." Callie chimed in. "Tell me you have a plan, because I really don't feel like getting blown to bits today." Leo tightened his grip on the detonator. "I have a plan. It just might kill us though." Callie sighed. Par of the course, I guess. He swam toward the cache, careful not to draw attention. The mercenaries were too focused on their work, oblivious to his presence. He grabbed one of the charges, checking the timer. It was remote detonated. Perfect. Now he needed the right weak spot. Glancing at the cavern walls, he spotted a massive, naturally eroded fault line near the entrance. It was already fragile. One well-placed explosion could send the entire rock formation tumbling down, sealing off Atlantis without collapsing the city itself. "Zara, Callie," Leo whispered. "I found a way to block them in, but I need time. Then we'll buy you some," Zara replied. Leo didn't have time to ask what she meant. A second later, Zara and Callie went on the offensive. Callie darted toward the mercenaries, knocking over supply crates and cutting through their own ropes. The men shouted in confusion as their equipment began to drift away in the current. Meanwhile, Zara disabled the nearest drill, jamming it with a piece of fallen debris. Sparks flew as the machine malfunctioned. Ronan whipped around, furious. "Who the hell?" Then he saw them. "You!" Ronan's voice was sharp over the comm. "Stop them now." His men turned, weapons raised, but it was too late. Leo had already placed a charge. With one final desperate push, he activated the timer and swam for his life. The explosion tore through the cavern like a thunderclap. A massive shockwave sent ripples of debris spiraling through the water. The weakened fault line cracked, then crumbled, boulders breaking loose, tumbling downward, and a roaring cascade. Ronan's men scattered, barely avoiding the falling debris, but the entrance, their only way back to Atlantis, was gone. The dust settled, revealing a wall of impassable rock. The city was sealed away, safe once more. Leo turned, chest heaving, as Callie and Zara swam to his side. "You did it," Zara breathed, awestruck. "Yeah," Leo panted, "and we're still alive. Bonus." Callie smirked. "Barely." Ronan, trapped on the other side of the cavern, slammed a fist against the rock, his furious voice barely audible through the comms. "This isn't over, Leo." But for now, Atlantis was safe. And as the trio swam toward the surface, Leo realized something. His grandfather hadn't just left him a map of treasure. He had left him a responsibility. The waves lapped gently across the shore as Leo, Zara, and Callie stumbled onto the sand, exhausted but victorious. Their bodies ached, their lungs burned from exertion, but the weight in Leo's chest was different. Lighter, freer. For the first time in days, he felt something close to peace. Behind them, the sea remained undisturbed, Atlantis safely hidden beneath the waves once more. They had done it. Callie dropped onto the sand, stretching her arms behind her head. We're alive. Honestly, I didn't think that would happen. Zara, kneeling beside her, was still catching her breath. I can't believe it. We found it. We actually found Atlantis. Leo wiped the water from his face, letting the reality sink in. They had stood in the ruins of an ancient civilization. They had seen what no modern eyes had ever seen before. But more than that, they had protected it. A low hum of an approaching boat pulled his gaze toward the horizon. Ronan's ship loomed in the distance, its silhouette stark against the dawn sky. For a moment, Leo wondered if the rival expedition leader would try one last desperate move. But instead, Ronan stood at the bow of his boat, watching them in silence. He had lost, and he knew it. With a scrawl, Ronan turned, barking orders to his crew. Moments later, his ship veered away, heading back out to sea. Callie snorted. Coward. Zara exhaled. No, just smart enough to know when he's beaten. Leo watched until Ronan's boat became nothing more than a speck on the horizon. He won't stop, but now the authorities will be watching him. He got too reckless. It won't go unnoticed. Zara nodded, and we have something he doesn't. She pulled out a case, opening it carefully. Inside was their greatest victory. Not gold, not jewels, but a digital record of their findings. Scans of the Atlantis carvings, the precise coordinates, and a full log of everything they had uncovered along the way. Leo took the case from her, running a thumb over the seal. He had his grandfather's legacy in his hands. People will come looking, Callie said. They always do. Then we make sure the right people find it, Leo replied. They had agreed before even leaving the cavern, Atlantis wasn't meant to be exploited. The knowledge they had gained belonged to history, not to treasure hunters or corrupt corporations. Instead of hoarding their discovery, they'll contact the proper archaeological agencies, ensuring that when Atlantis was finally excavated, it'll be done the right way, with preservation in mind, not greed. For now, though, the three of them sat in the sand, the tension of the past few days finally beginning to melt away. The sky turned shades of orange and pink, the sea stretching infinitely before them. After a long silence, Zara grinned. So, what's next? However, before they could say anything, Callie frowned, noticing the map that Leo still held, wet from the seawater that had splashed over them. She glanced down at it, but to her surprise, the water hadn't destroyed the fragile parchment. Instead, something else appeared. An inscription, hidden until now. A secret note barely legible, but unmistakable in its message. Find me at the city of gold. Zara stared at it in stunned silence. The words echoed in her mind. El Dorado. Leo's eyes widened, his pulse quickening. He thought his grandfather was dead, but this note shows that his journey hadn't ended with Atlantis. There was more. There was still the search for El Dorado. A wide grin spread across Leo's face as his hazel eyes lit up with renewed determination. Now, he said, voice steady with resolve, we find my grandfather.